it's raining in the west. We're going to talk about all of this today. Now, we did transition to summer officially.
In some spots.
Right. June 1st, meteorological summer.
Temperature-wise, some of us are in those more summer-like temperatures and some of us are holding on. But summer also means wildfire season.
Yeah, and wildfires have flared up. Now, thankfully, the weather will provide more favorable conditions for firefighters in California here as they battle the flame-scorching parts of the San Joaquin Valley. We're going to hear more from families who were forced to evacuate over the weekend.
So fire season is really ramping up in California.
Yeah.
We have a big heat wave that's going to be moving into the west. But in the Pacific Northwest, it's more like January.
This is your season to get the sunshine.
Yeah.
It's not happening yet, that's for sure.
And what happens ahead of our big pattern change?
City, you're looking a little dreary there to start your day. Rain is not too far away. So I want to talk about what's going on the radar here right across the middle of the country with thunderstorms ongoing in Kansas and into parts of Oklahoma. Got a couple of showers now moving through Arkansas as well. You know, right now, a lot of lightning out there. We've had some hail come out of some of the thunderstorms, like around Wichita, north of there in Park City. We had hail that was 0.88 inches. So what is that, about nickel size hail? We're going to be talking more about the size of hail today. Dodge City, we had some stronger winds, 67 miles per hour. And we're keeping an eye on these storms as they continue to drop south through Oklahoma. There is a severe thunderstorm watch that's in effect until noon here Central Time, and that does include Oklahoma City and up I-35 towards Ponca City and Wichita. So we're not quite done yet there in Wichita. You've had one round of thunderstorms go through. Well, actually, you've had two already, and we're still going to see the risk of more developing. Keeping an eye on this batch out here as we watch this continue to drop south towards Oklahoma City. Leading edge of it may bring some strong gusty winds. Right now, not looking at severe limits, but they still could gust to 30 or 40 miles per hour. You'll notice that coming on in. And this has been pretty slow moving, but with us here through the last 2 hours or so, Chanute down to Independence in Kansas. We've got thunder and lightning ongoing there. Let's drop south, getting an eye on what's happening in Arkansas and eastern Oklahoma. We've got some storms moving through McAllister right now. Some of them right along I-40, most of it south of I-40. But Fort Smith, be ready. We'll have some thunderstorm risks coming your way in the next hour. So that's what's happening right now out there as we look at what's going on. Today's forecast area includes a lot of the same region where we've got from Oklahoma into parts of Arkansas, all the way to Mississippi, actually dropping south into Texas. Another chance of thunderstorms for today that may bring with them all the hazards when it comes to severe weather. There's damaging winds and hail, and there is an isolated tornado threat, a 3 on the Torcon. Going to keep a watch back here into parts of southwestern Oklahoma, near Wichita Falls and Texas. That's where the 3 is. The 2 extends from Oklahoma City down to Dallas and over towards Texarkana and Shreveport. We also have the threat for hail across this area, and Texas, no stranger to hail over the weekend. There could be more today. We could see some of that really large hail, 2 inches and greater. So we're talking golf ball size or greater. Wichita Falls and points just north of there. That'll be something we continue to watch in the forecast as we go through the afternoon and evening hours, especially here. We also have some rain in the Midwest, Molly, and that's affecting some heavy rainfall, record rain at most spots actually across the Pacific Northwest. And we've got more to come, which is why I've got flood watches that are up. You can see these posted through Wednesday morning. Here in Washington. Also, we've got some into Idaho as well. And we've got some showers out there as you take a look at Spokane, interior parts of Washington, watching over into northern parts of Idaho, Boise, some showers in the area. And Seattle area, it's very scattered right now, but let's look on out in the distance. We do have more rain yet to come. In fact, 2 to 3 inches is possible in spots up here. Hoquiam yesterday had almost 2 inches of rainfall, and that was a wettest June day on record. And now we're going to bring in more rain to that very same spot. So, a couple of inches of rain this time of year is a big deal. Seattle, I think you hit your record rainfall. It wasn't even an inch, but still, it's telling. We're not used to getting that much at this point in the season. But look what's coming our way. Persistent moisture here feeding on in, as you can see. And we're going to watch these disturbances kind of within that to help squeeze out all the moisture in the atmosphere. And they end up then tracking across the country. So we are in a pretty active pattern here across the Pacific Northwest, and that will continue to track right across the upper Midwest and into the Northeast. You can see today's rain in Seattle becomes our rain on Wednesday in Minneapolis and Chicago, and eventually tracking to the Northeast. So the front by the time we get to the middle of the week, is on the move. It's going to have a widespread area of showers and maybe even some thunderstorms out ahead of it. This is a pattern where, yes, you'll see the lightning. There's going to be some severe chances. We are in June after all. That sun angle is strong, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then we get you into Thursday. Now it's in the northeast with rain moving in here. So you might be asking, where is the summer heat, Molly?
Not everyone is asking that, though.
Warnings have been downgraded, but residents are advised to be prepared for potential changes. Tori Apodaca from CBS Sacramento talked to families who have returned home after the fire got too close.
The same size when it falls, so you're trying to look for the biggest one to say, okay, here's how big it can be. And as it was bouncing toward, it had been so long since I had held change in my hand.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so this brings us to our question of the day. We're asking you what items would work better.
I like that. I'm trying to think of something universal that we all have.
This used to be
it, but now I'm thinking like all we have that's universal, like phones. And that certainly wouldn't. Season has officially started, and it's expected. We were showing all of the flooding in Texas and Louisiana. It just made me think, okay, if we were to get one of these early season tropical systems that drops a lot of rain, we're already saturated in those areas.
We are, and we've already had some big rain events here. The atmosphere is almost tropical-like in some cases. So now here we are, hurricane season. It began on Saturday. We are in the beginning stages. You can see how activity really ramps up once we get to late August through September and early October. But there's a season for a reason, and so we start to see development in June.
We do. Typically, the development that we see in June is a little bit closer to land, but with the water temperature so warm, not just in the Gulf and not just closer to land in the Atlantic, but all the way out in the main development region, it's more typical of what it would be in August than June.
Exactly. So, we could be getting one of these kind of systems this year when you just look at the environment that we have out there, both in the water and in the atmosphere. Now, at the moment, there's nothing of concern for tropical development. This is a satellite. You see, we have some flare-ups out here over parts of the Caribbean, especially the northern islands, but nothing at this point expected to develop because the wind shear is pretty strong.
But it will drop. And it is forecast to drop. And as we head towards maybe perhaps the end of June, we could see some development start to spark up. And the problem is that our water temperatures are so warm. So anything that develops is going to have plenty of fuel as long as there's lower wind shear.
Look at some of these water temperatures. This hot pink color driving up here above the upper 80s here, even near 90. We're talking about the Florida Keys, down across the southern Bahamas. Really warm water temperatures really everywhere running here, especially into the western Caribbean. So where do we look for activity this time of year? Typical tracks for June is to see somewhere in there develop, again, somewhere in the western Caribbean or maybe Gulf of Mexico, off the southeastern coast. But then because it's so close to land, we generally see land impacts.
And because we see them form closer to land, there's not as much time to prepare. Not like out in the Atlantic when you're watching something for a whole week before it even gets close to land.
Exactly. So we're still at the beginning stages of the season, but it's still good to be prepared because we do get activity. Typically, we have about 6% of our named storms in June, another 8% in July. Really ramping up as we get into the end of August and September, but need to be aware of this potential as well, which is why we say be prepared.
And ways that you can be prepared is knowing your evacuation zone, having, all of your insurance in order. It can be complicated, so you always want to start that process early. And know what your friends and family are going to do, too, because that way there's not a lot of chaos when you're trying to just get out.
Yes, and this matters, of course, if you live near the coastline, but also if you're vacationing near the coastline as well. So think about that.
Well, coming up, it's the launch that did
see hail really become a bigger threat sometimes in the month of June, and some strong winds too. Those will be the main threats this morning as we take a look at what's going on out there to start your day here in parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. Thunderstorms not too far away from Oklahoma City. We've got the clouds really thickening up out there, as well as the rain starting to push in, although it's been very slow moving to get there. Thunderstorms into parts of Arkansas as well. There is the chance that some of these storms are on the feisty side, and we've got the risk for severe weather, including from Wichita all the way down to Oklahoma City. Got a pretty large zone out there along I-35 that could be impacted. This is a severe thunderstorm watch, primarily for winds and hail as the risk. We have existing thunderstorms ongoing right now in Woodward and down towards Watonga in Oklahoma. You can see these getting closer to Oklahoma City. A little bit of an outflow looks like maybe coming out of these. You can kind of see that right there. Or maybe that's an old boundary, or actually It could be birds as well. All these things can happen early in the morning when you look at the radar. But we're going to be watching for this leading edge to perhaps bring some gustier winds, maybe at times 30 to 40 miles per hour. Nothing severe right now. It's just that we have to monitor it because we know the potential of these thunderstorms in this area. We've got thunderstorms ongoing up into Kansas, around Independence, Kansas, up towards Chanute. You guys are dealing with thunderstorms not too far from Miami and Oklahoma. Thunderstorm activity continue to be ongoing, and they're not weakening. You know, one thing we would see if it was weakening, we'd see less lightning. We see the cloud tops coming down in terms of not reaching as high as the atmosphere. Hasn't really been happening. So they're at least holding together. If, you know, may not be strengthening, but they're at least holding together. Another batch out here too, moving through eastern Oklahoma. That's going to head over to Fort Smith, and we'll keep an eye on any severe risk there. Right now, the lightning is the biggest risk heading your way. But through today, we've got a chance of thunderstorms going severe in Oklahoma, down into Texas, including Dallas yet again. I know you guys are very weary of storms here. Throughout Louisiana into Alexandria, over into Mississippi, including around Jackson. Memphis, you're in this little rock. You can see a large area. Plus, we've got a zone up here in the upper Midwest, like into southern Wisconsin, Madison, watching you, and down into northern Illinois, where we could see thunderstorms going severe. So let's play all of it out in the forecast for later today. Oklahoma City, we get some storms through late afternoon, but then there's still a renewed chance as we get into tonight, and that could really bring a big cluster of storms. The leading edge of it would bring some strong winds, and we'll have to watch as we get through tomorrow morning where that sets up. That could be a wind maker along with a heavy rain maker as well. So let's look at Oklahoma City. Now, this looks a little overdone compared to what we're seeing out there right now, but just to show you timing, 11 o'clock, thunderstorms coming through the Oklahoma City area, Tulsa as well, a little bit after that. This is the afternoon, but then overnight hours, here we go. Thunderstorms continue to track as we get through the early morning hours. This is 1 a.m. heading east here to Oklahoma, again forming a cluster. And last stop, Chicago, since I clicked it real quick, sorry about that. I wanted to show you your timing as well. It is overnight with thunderstorms in the forecast. Then we track everything east, Molly.
Everything east, and
it was piling up. The town of Greeley was inundated by baseball-sized hail. It fell for more than an hour, and it piled up to basically look like a snowstorm, more than a foot deep here.
There was so much hail that it actually clogged drains, and it triggered some flash flooding because of the clogged drains. The mayor issued a disaster declaration, and now residents are trying to repair their homes. Reporter Dylan Thomas from CBS Colorado has more.
You know, this part of the country is considered Hail Alley, but Colorado, Nebraska, Wyoming, where they all come together. This is a spot where we do get multiple hailstorms every year. And, you know, it obviously can be very destructive.
Sizable hailstones, too, like what we saw. Yeah. And, you know, the all-time record for a hailstone is actually in Vivian, South Dakota. So it just shows you that I think that was 8 inches in diameter was the record, which is hard to fathom.
Well, here's some of the hail that we saw from this event. And, you know, Commerce City, we had 2 3/4. Broomfield here, 2 1/4. Buckley, over 2-inch size hail. And to get that kind of hail, think about the thunderstorm that has to be in place and the updraft needed to sustain the hailstones until they can grow to that size. You're talking about winds 65 to 80 miles per hour feeding into that thunderstorm updraft.
And think about you know, a hailstone in that diameter, how quickly, when it overcomes gravity finally in the updraft speed, how quickly it falls to ground.
Oh, gravity takes over, right?
Yeah, gravity takes over fast. Right. And so that's when you can see a lot of injuries, people that are out in the hailstorms, but also a lot of damage to your property.
So Texas, you know, you think of Texas with the most storm reports, most hail reports, yes, but there definitely is this corridor stretching from, you know, Colorado up into Nebraska, even Kansas. I mean, really that we get a lot of hail reports every single year.
We're above average, no surprise, because of the type of severe season that we've seen. And we stayed pretty close to average until we got to April, and then things really started to skyrocket as far as those hail reports.
We've been talking about the April-May stretch of severe weather, and there was a lot of storms with damaging winds and tornadoes, but there's a lot of hail reports as well. So looking back at this year, we had March 14th still the top one for number of hail reports, but now we bring in May 8th, the 26th, the 9th, the 23rd. These were all days that were very active with all types of severe weather.
A lot of those very recent. So the memories are fresh at this point. Now, we typically see those hail reports pick up, obviously, in spring, but they stay pretty high through the summertime, too.
June is known as a month of hail, you know, especially into Colorado, into Wyoming, into the Dakotas, where we start to get into our stormy season. So far, when you look at 2024 and the billion-dollar disasters, we've had 7. And of course, we'll always keep an eye on hail as a potential problematic one here. I have to see what they do with this Denver storm.
I imagine that there's a good chance, just with the amount of damage that we've seen, that there's a good shot that it gets added to the list.
Yeah. All right. Well, when you look at billion-dollar disasters and hail, so again, so far that one in Texas for this year, but there were 5 last year. So again, looking ahead to what happens in Colorado. Well, next hour forecast for highways and skyways. We'll take a look at the Midwest, where we could see some delays today. We'll keep an eye. Des Moines, perhaps, you know, some of the smaller airports here may have some issues when thunderstorms are in play. But at the moment, you're not looking at any delays out there. Chicago, I think most of your thunderstorm activity comes up late enough in the day that we shouldn't be looking at any issues. And even then, we're not seeing widespread storms on the severe side. Now, on the roads, though, it could be a different story. We are dealing with some thunderstorm activity already on I-35 from Wichita down through Oklahoma City. There will be more as we get through the next several hours, especially in Oklahoma, stretching over into Arkansas. This is going to be a tough ride today with rounds of thunderstorms coming on in. And then overnight tonight, we'll have to watch that very same area for the risk of thunderstorms, potentially going severe with some strong winds as well as some very heavy rainfall. We've got all hazards out there, though, and there is an isolated tornado risk into parts of West Texas, southwestern Oklahoma. If you're traveling I-35 into Dallas, get ready. We'll have some thunderstorm activity coming your way, too. And that could mean air travel delays yet again at our Dallas hubs, DFW, Love Field. It's a possibility. And let's talk traveling to the beaches. If you're heading out to some of our Gulf Coast beaches, we do have a couple areas of high rip current risk here, not too far from Corpus Christi, those beaches there on the Texas coast, and then around Panama City Beach and the 38 beaches, and then also St. George Island. This is where we have a high rip current risk for today here. Remember, swim near a guarded beach or always swim with a buddy if there are no lifeguards. Molly.
Well, you can stay on top of threats.
Mike suggests that as well.
Yeah.
Fruit.
But fruit can be different sizes, too. You think about different size apples, different size limes. Is it a key lime? Is it a lime?
Exactly.
Like, what is it? So can you come up with a better descriptor? Let us know.
Yeah, go to Threads, send us your comments, and also share your pics and video with us using the hashtag Yes. That doesn't really get here to the end of the week. For now, it's interesting what's happening from west to east. We're going to track it all for you. Thanks for getting your day going with us as we help you plan for the big events in your neighborhood.
The Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast as we watch waves of storms firing up at this hour in the central U.S. It's already been a busy morning, but we know that that's going to spill right over into the afternoon.
Yes.
Once again.
I don't think this is really going to give us a break today. Thunderstorms now and thunderstorms throughout the day.
With the heat that we have and the sun angle that we have now, the atmosphere does not take a lot of time to recover.
And the Northwest, you're probably thinking, wait, this is June? No.
It's like January.
I mean, it's not the kind of pattern you expect in June.
Meanwhile, in California, this is more what you would expect because we're getting into wildfire season, unfortunately.
But this is a little early here. And, you know, summer does mean wildfire season flares up. Thankfully, the weather will provide more favorable conditions for firefighters here in California as we get through today. They've been battling flames scorching parts of the San Joaquin Valley. We're going to hear more from families who were forced to evacuate over the weekend coming up.
The fire now at over 50% containment, so at least that's good news. That doesn't mean that 50% of the fire is out. It just means they have a better handle on it. And because the weather has gotten a little more favorable for the firefighters, they've been able to get more of that containment overnight.
Right. So these clouds are actually a good thing for us here.
Well, what happens ahead of our pattern change?
And we certainly didn't have it this weekend either, so enjoy that in Seattle. Glad to give you a little sunshine to start your morning there. You're not getting in Oklahoma City. You saw the clouds out there in the tower cam hanging over the city, looking kind of ominous. Rain is not far away here in Oklahoma City. Showers have been on the move, albeit very slowly, and we've been watching some thunderstorms out there across parts of Kansas, down into Oklahoma. They've had a history of some hail. Park City, which is near Wichita, we've had hail 0.88 inches or nickel size, which is important, coming up later in the show. Dodge City, 67-mile-per-hour winds for you, so that's over severe limits there. The nickel size hail, by the way, that's sub-severe. 1-inch hail is what makes a severe risk there. All right, severe thunderstorm watch, that is up from parts of Kansas down into Oklahoma. This goes until noon today, so until lunchtime local time. It does include Oklahoma City. There is a risk that the thunderstorms that we're watching right now could bring the chance of severe weather. They haven't recently, but we've got that risk out there as we look at the next few hours. The thunderstorms that we've been tracking haven't really been changing a lot. They haven't been growing stronger, but they haven't really been weakening either. So watching this line as it continues to track east, it's moving slowly, but it's moving out of Stillwater. We're still going to, I think, be in the storms for quite a bit there. There's more to come around Stillwater and Tulsa. Thunderstorms will be heading your way in the next couple of hours. This is all an area that is likely to see severe weather today. Outlook for possible thunderstorms through Oklahoma, down into northern Texas, into Louisiana, Mississippi. We've got thunderstorms heading our way. Pretty much the entire state of Arkansas could see severe weather. And all modes are possible. Mostly wind and hail is the main threat. We do have an isolated tornado risk at 3 out there in parts of West Texas. Wichita Falls right in the heart of that. So is the risk of some larger hail, 2-inch size hail or greater, maybe golf ball size hail. We've got that risk across that zone as well. All right, so in the forecast, this is the forecast model. Thunderstorms here through parts of central and eastern Oklahoma right through the afternoon. Watching that, again, bringing severe risk, and that could get into Little Rock by about the rush hour. This is 5 o'clock-ish. And then we see what happens overnight. We are expecting new thunderstorms. I left my circle on there so you can see Oklahoma City. Overnight thunderstorms, strong winds, a potential, as well as some heavy rainfall. And then that dives south here as we get you into northeastern Texas and Louisiana through the overnight hours. We're also going to see some storms through the Midwest week in Chicago and then end of the week in the Northeast. Flood watches, mentioned those against Seattle. Yes, it's been a wet last couple days. Yesterday, gosh, what a rainy one for you. We also have some flood watches that are up here into Idaho too, including around Stanley, Idaho City. This is a big deal here, I think, because a lot of people are now in their summer mode. Maybe they're doing some fly fishing out here, even thinking about some rafting. The rivers and everything could be running quite high because of, well, the winter snow melt, but also because of the rainfall. And we have some rain happening right now. Spokane, we are finding rain, some of it heavy at times, especially nearby. And then in the Seattle area, it's very showery right now, and you saw the sunshine, I know, in Seattle, but we've got rain coming on in. A couple of inches are possible, mainly in the mountain areas, squeezing out that moisture. Showers all the way down through Portland, along the coast, in Oregon, and interior rain. We've got rain in Montana, in Idaho, down through Boise. Again, showers right now. There'll be a few more throughout the day, thanks to this pattern that we're in. I mean, look at all this moisture that is coming in. We've got one system that's swinging in right now. We've got another one out here that's going to swing in, using up all this moisture. So as we look at what's coming our way on the West Coast, we're going to track it all the way to the East Coast. So again, coming in today, tomorrow, moving in through parts of the upper Midwest, Great Lakes into Wednesday. Now we've got Chicago, Detroit looking at some active weather. Then as we get into the end of the week, that moves all the way to the eastern seaboard. So the front associated with that will be one of the triggers that we look for, lifting air and getting us some showers and maybe some thunderstorm activity heading east. Minneapolis, your forecast here starts very early on Wednesday or even late Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, now we're talking about, say, Grand Rapids and down through Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Thursday into late Thursday, we're talking East Coast, including New York and Boston. So with all of this and this pattern, Molly, we're not seeing a lot of summer heat up here, but other spots are definitely feeling it.
And it's going to be building in, especially as we get
14,000 acres since Saturday. CBS News correspondent Ben Tracy has more. It is early to get started with this.
It is, and you wonder, okay, is this what's going to be happening all summer long? There's a lot of new vegetation in California from the
rain.
The past 2 winters.
We think of the rain as a good thing, but the problem is it does grow
a lot of new vegetation. So we'll just have to see how this fire season unfolds, and we're hoping it's not going to be as bad as the last couple.
Yeah. All right. Well, coming up, some parts of Colorado are cleaning up nearly.
Paid with something using change. I can't. I don't even carry it anymore.
It's rare.
It's very rare. And some places don't even take it anymore.
I had a quarter in my purse, but I don't know how long it's been there. And we were literally scrounging around the newsroom trying to come up with some.
I keep quarters in my car for air for my tires. Yeah. A penny, a dime. I don't know. Like if there's hail falling, if I would be able to visualize that very quickly.
Well, this is why we're asking you. Our question of the day is what? That's a pretty uniform size.
I feel like they're all the same size, but you'd have to wear contacts. So, so I can easily. I put it in my eye every morning, so I can easily visualize it.
And that's a common hail size, right?
Yeah, I feel like we have to
be onto something. Doc.
Measure what diameter that is.
Well, go to Threads, send us your comments, and you can share your pics and video with us using the hashtag YesTV.
Well, the 2024 Atlantic hurricane
part of this basin.
It's really hot. I mean, we're talking bathtub water already. In parts of the Keys, we've already seen 90s for temperatures in our water.
Hurricane season has begun June 1st, the official date, so that was on Saturday. And so now we're in it. Not to say you can't get something before the start of the season, you can, but we didn't this year. And so you look at activity, it ramps up to the peak in mid-September here through August and then trailing down in October. But it goes from June 1st to November 30th. And there's a reason for that. We do generally see most of our activity during this time frame.
And that's to say is that we have a long way to go with this season. We're just at the beginning. Now, where do we typically look for storm origins in June? It happens closer to land in parts of the Gulf, around, say the Gulf Stream over in the Atlantic, or maybe perhaps down towards the Yucatan Peninsula. All closer to land.
Right. And so that would potentially mean more impacts to land, right? Just because we're already there. At the moment, there is no area set for development. But then when you look at the satellite, you probably see, well, that's interesting. We've got a lot of thunderstorm flare up here and convection going on over parts of down through the southern Bahamas, northern Caribbean, like around the British Virgin Islands. But it's not expected to develop because there's, at the moment, some stronger than average wind shear.
But we're in a developing La Nina. And as the La Nina gets stronger, it actually is going to allow the wind shear across the Atlantic basin to drop. And that's going to coincide right as we're getting into the peak of the season. So that could be some pretty interesting timing, to say the least.
Yeah, and so this is still something we'll watch. If any of these, if the wind shear does relent and any of those clusters of thunderstorms hang around, they could be maybe a seedling for something to develop. And if something does develop, the source of the fuel is plentiful, where we've got water temperatures running well above average here, well to upper 80s, near 90 even.
So these are the tropical tracks and origins in June. Again, closer to land. What you see in orange is a more classic area of development, and that's right next to the coastline. That would mean that if you see something that spins up, that's not a lot of time to prepare before it's right on top of you.
Exactly. So in June, it's a small percentage, but it's still a percentage of storms typically that we see about 6%, 4% of hurricanes. Very rarely do we get major hurricanes, but it's not zero.
Right. Yeah. As we get into August and then September, that's when we really start to see the averages of Atlantic hurricane or of major hurricanes go upwards in a big way.
Exactly. So it's a good time to right now continue working on your plan and on your preparedness. You decide on where you would shelter if you are going to need to evacuate. Make sure your supplies are ready to go. Insurance checkup, that can take some time actually, and so now is the best time to do that because most insurance plans you have to have in place before the storm threatens, and many by at least 30 days.
And there's a lot of places along the coast where insurance has gotten really complicated over the last couple of years. So knowing what your coverage is, making sure you have the proper coverage will save you a lot of stress afterwards.
Yeah, good to think about how you would protect your home. Are you going to need to put up plywood, etc., but hurricane shutters? Now would be the time to think about that, not at the last minute. And also looking to your friends and neighbors, making sure they have what they need to. It's a good time to ask them just to make sure you're all ready for the season.
And knowing your evacuation zone too, that's always important. Well, coming up, it is the launch that didn't.
Is there and been monitoring how these storms have been developing or not over the last several hours here. There's one portion right here, this extent that moves from just north of Oklahoma City to Tulsa almost. That area has been holding together and if anything, maybe growing a little bit stronger. So keeping an eye on that. The rain is now heading into Oklahoma City. It's not severe. There is some thunder and lightning, but we are not at the moment, I think, looking for a severe risk coming in. Though we do have a watch, and a watch is coming into Oklahoma City. Our watch is in place in Oklahoma City until noon there. We also noticed that part of this watch was chopped here in between I-35 up towards the Kansas state line down through Ponca City. That area, not likely to see severe weather at the moment, but the risk is still here coming into Oklahoma City as the rain has come in. We'll keep an eye on this. It certainly hasn't shown any concern for severe weather right now. This area, though, I'm continuing to watch that. Again, just east of Oklahoma City, extending north and east out of there, which is where these thunderstorms have at least not been reducing in height in terms of the height of the thunderstorm clouds, and the lightning activity has stayed about the same as well. Heading towards Joplin in Missouri, a couple thunderstorms have now popped there. We've been in some showers throughout the morning in Chanute, a couple rumbles of thunder as well. Bit more coming in through Independence in Kansas and Bartlesville here in Oklahoma. Your thunderstorms are now moving in Tulsa. Everything kind of closing in on you. Also, these thunderstorms down here from eastern Oklahoma moving into Arkansas around the Fort Smith area, they're now making some progress moving into Fort Smith. Smith. It's one area that we'll keep an eye on for the potential of severe weather. It's a large zone in Texas, up to Oklahoma, and to Arkansas, southward into Louisiana. The risk of severe weather here, and there's another spot up into the Midwest, into Wisconsin and northern Illinois, where we may see thunderstorms. So as we look at the forecast through today, keep an eye central Oklahoma, and then keep an eye on what happens up here into into Wisconsin. We'll watch for maybe some storms moving over Lake Michigan, but that would be late tonight. Chicago, you can see it really takes all day for anything to get into your area. We've also got another cluster of storms that could develop late tonight, continuing through the overnight, and watching that in Oklahoma, maybe dropping down through the Red River Valley, and that moving east or southeast as we get through the overnight hours. So that leading edge, this is one of those clusters we'll have to watch for the risk of some strong damaging winds, as well as some heavy rain potential with this as we watch through the overnight hours into the early morning hours. Dallas, it would be just east of there that maybe some of the worst weather would be. Then tomorrow we keep an eye a little farther north of here, Kansas City up to Des Moines. This is out ahead of our next front coming in. As that drops in, you're going to see some showers developing. So this is now Tuesday, watching for thunderstorms here, potentially moving through Minneapolis about mid-afternoon or so. And then really the bigger risk for severe weather comes in Des Moines down to Kansas City as we get into the early to late evening time frame. It all tracks east then, Molly.
It does.
The start of Colorado's hail season, and the state is no stranger to big hail events.
In 2017, a hailstorm in the Denver metro area caused more than $2 billion in damage. And just last year, concert goers at the Red Rocks Amphitheater were pelted by hail, and that injured nearly 100 people.
So joining us now to talk more about why Colorado is prone to these large hailstorms is meteorologist at the National Weather Service office in Boulder, Zach Hyras. Zach, thank you so much for joining us today. And let's talk about last week's hailstorm in Greeley and in Denver. Were any records broken by chance? And do you know how much damage was caused by the hail?
To our knowledge, no record.
I know that the weather right off the Rockies can be extremely dynamic. So what is the meteorology behind Colorado being so prone to these intense hailstorms?
There's a lot of factors. I think the first
Meteorology going into last week's hailstorms, and it was kind of the same setup as you might expect a big snowstorm. You had an east wind that created an upslope flow. Do you compare the two, or is there a comparison to be made?
yeah, there's certainly some sort of comparisons that you can make there. Really, that easterly wind is key for us.
How often do we see days like this? I mean, obviously 2 big hailstorms last week here. Is this once a month, once a summer to get this big of an event?
It really kind of depends on common thing as we get across the summer months here.
Yeah.
Zach Hyras, meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Boulder. Thanks for your time this morning. And I know that they've been very busy as of late, of course, with all these hailstorms. And then they have to assess some of the damage, too. But I've seen some very creative solutions to trying to protect property from hail in these hail-prone areas. Pool noodles on cars.
Yes.
They make these giant inflatable things that go around your cars, too. And it's kind of what you have to do if you live in a spot where you know that you are prone to some very big hailstones.
I meant to share a video. A friend of mine, Kylie, in Denver, that she puts big boxes over her garden plants because you don't want those to get.
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
And even the small hail can affect your garden plants.
A lot of us have those boxes just laying around too. What are you going to do with them? That's a good use of it.
As you take off from the airport, so far so good. No delays at the airports right now. We're going to keep an eye on a few spots across the Midwest, maybe Des Moines, Kansas City, St. Louis, although I think it'll be isolated with any delays that we do see here. In Chicago, thankfully, most of the active weather either stays to our west or north or stays away until later tonight when volume comes down. On the roads, we got a number of areas to watch even to start your day. I-44 is about to get pretty stormy out there with thunderstorms coming on in. Already I-40 has been getting wetter and wetter, and we'll see more of that rain dropping south pretty much all along I-40 from Oklahoma into Arkansas. And then through the day, we'll have to keep an eye on 2 areas of thunderstorms, eventually one that could affect us in northeast Texas that could create some air travel delays here. DFW, Dallas Love Field yet again. Also Little Rock and Memphis could see some potential delays as well. If you're traveling to the beach, wanted to give you a quick look at where we'll see the rip current risk that's high today. Beaches in Texas near Corpus Christi and also along the Florida Panhandle, including around Panama City. We do have a high risk of rip currents for today. Molly.
Well, you can stay weather. You want to know how big it is, but it's hard to visualize out of the Storm Prediction Center. Some of the reports from yesterday that there was some hailstones in the Texas Panhandle that were 5-6 inches, which is very large. but the
It doesn't work anymore.
We don't use those anymore. So maybe we need a whole revamp.
Yeah, we need help. That's why we're asking you. Go to Threads, send us your comments. We will changing in the forecast here. Thanks for getting your day going with us as we help you plan for the big events in your neighborhood.
The Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast as we're watching waves of storms firing up at this hour, mainly in the central U.S. But we're also closely monitoring the Pacific Northwest because even though we haven't seen a lot of rain this morning, you have an atmospheric river in June.
No.
It's very,
so weird.
very unusual.
We had rain yesterday. I mean, we had not just heavy rain, we had record rain at a number of spots in the Pacific Northwest. Most spots, actually.
Meanwhile, in the central U.S. and parts of the upper Midwest, it's been wave after wave of storms, and we're going to see more of that again today.
Yeah, so busy radar this morning. We'll talk through all of that. One spot where it's not raining, where we wish we did get it, which is where a wildfire is affecting us here. So, summer does mean wildfire season flares up, but thankfully the weather will provide more favorable conditions for firefighters in California as they battle flames scorching parts of the San Joaquin Valley. Right now, we have an update. The fire is 75% contained.
Which is amazing work that they've done in the last 24 hours because, they've been battling some pretty intense winds. That's really hard to get fires under control in those conditions. And of course, overnight when they're working at night and dark, that's all, you're tired.
Right.
You've been working all day. The heat has not been our friend in California either, and that's only going to continue to build in.
Yes, but we get to next week. So we're in a short-term improvement when it comes to, I'll get that, a second improvement when it comes to the weather here.
So what happens ahead of our pattern change is today.
It's blowing too, so it's obviously windy out there. 15 gusts to 24. Thank you. So yeah, gusting to nearly 25 miles per hour. We are watching thunderstorms out there that might bring those kind of wind gusts too into the middle of the country, into southeastern Kansas, stretching now through Oklahoma, pretty much now from Tulsa all the way to Oklahoma City. You're into some thunderstorms, dropping some heavy rain, a lot of lightning with that as well. Yeah, this has been weakening a little bit, but we still have the rain ongoing, moving into Fort Smith. Little Rock not too far away. You're running into showers. And then this big batch here dropping south in Oklahoma City. Thankfully, it has not really posed a big severe threat. We are still under a severe thunderstorm watch that goes until noon, but it does look like the storms at the very least aren't increasing in intensity. They're certainly not as strong as they were several hours ago back when they were west of here. So watching for thunderstorms, potentially. Again, the watch is still up. Wichita and Oklahoma City, you're in it until noon local time. Here's a look at where the rain is right now and the thunderstorm activity. So this leading edge might have some stronger winds. It's now crossed over I-44. You're in the rain, you're in the thunder and lightning. If you're driving I-44 out of Oklahoma City, heading up towards Tulsa, you've also got more to come. And right now in Weatherford on I-40 in Oklahoma, a lot of thunder and lightning happening right there. Jumping up into Kansas around Independence, we've got some thunderstorms. In Miami, Oklahoma, we've got thunderstorms as well. Here's a look at where, though, thunderstorms later today could develop. So obviously we're dealing with what we have going on right now. But we think there's going to be another resurgence of thunderstorms tonight into Oklahoma, dropping south into Texas. Keeping an eye today in Arkansas for a couple of chances of storms coming on in. There is some risks of damaging winds and hail as the main risk, but there's also an isolated tornado risk, a 3 on the Torcon back here into southwestern Oklahoma, into western Texas, including around Wichita Falls. This is also where we have that chance of larger hail, 2-inch in size greater hail, large zone that could get hail in general from southern Kansas and southwestern Missouri, stretching all the way down into Texas. Into this whole zone today. You see thunderstorms right now. That there may be some new ones that still yet to fire up in southeastern Oklahoma. This happens to be where there is more instability available for thunderstorms, so we'll see what happens there. Also, when that cluster moves into Arkansas later today, tapping into the instability that will be building, this actually could be an area to watch for potential severe weather. Pop-up stuff into Louisiana, into eastern Texas, especially Texas. Some of those could be severe. And then overnight tonight, I'm watching this cluster of storms likely to develop here. How that happens, the leading edge of that could bring some very strong wind potential and some heavy rain, too, as we get through the overnight hours. You're moving from Oklahoma into Texas and into Arkansas. So there's a smattering of thunderstorms in the Midwest possible, too. It is not a summer day by any stretch in Seattle right now. Rain is coming. This after record rain that we had yesterday. It was officially 0.65 at the airport for the day, but just in the past 24 hours, we've had nearly an inch of rain in Seattle. In some cases, like Hoquiam, Mass, saw nearly 2 inches of rain. That was a record, all-time June record, actually. So this is why we have flood watches up. The ground is saturated and we've got more rain coming on in. Flood watches in parts of Idaho, too, including around Stanley, Idaho. We've got showers out there right now, showers out here across eastern Washington and up into the chimney of Idaho with rain, some of that heavy at times. And then we also have some showers overspreading the area from Seattle down through Portland. There will be more rain as we get through today. You can see the bulk of the moisture actually streaming in just south of Seattle. We've got 1 to 2 inches of rain, though, in the forecast. This goes through tomorrow. So coming in as we get through later today, the rain on the move. We're going to see rain spreading on top of what we've already been getting out here over parts of Idaho and Montana, stretching here over into western Wyoming as well. If you go into Yellowstone, we do have some rainfall coming your way. Here's a look at why this is happening. Look at all this moisture coming in. This is not your typical June-like satellite picture. You might think of this more in the wintertime or maybe even early spring. But yes, we are getting it with 1-2 systems lined up ready to come in to bring and use that atmospheric moisture. So it's going to be a wet pattern over the next 2 days here. And then that transitions east. So we see these systems track across the northern tier, active northern branch of the jet stream. That brings us the rain showers, Minneapolis, through Madison, Chicago. We get into it. That front is on the move to the northeast by Thursday. So now we bring Pittsburgh and eventually New York City into the risk for some rain, all thanks to these systems coming into the west coast. Valley.
And then once we see these systems move out,
downgraded, but residents are advised to be prepared for potential changes. Tori Apodaca from CBS Sacramento talked to families who have returned home after the fire got too close. Who would describe that?
That's nickel-size hail, right?
Yeah, right. But it takes a second.
It does take a second, and you know when you realize. And how many of us have coins now?
Exactly. So our question of the day is, what items would work better?
Hockey is not representing because you have baseball, you have softball, golf ball size hail. Why not hockey puck?
I think that's a good idea. Well, you can go to Threads, send us your comments. You can also share your pics and video with us using the hashtag YesTV.
Let us know. In hurricane season, we can see storms before the season starts. Thankfully, we didn't this year, but we have now 100% of the activity left to go.
All right, we are in it. June 1st started Saturday, and now it runs to November 30th. The peak of the season is generally mid-August through the middle of October. We cram a lot into that time frame here, but we do see in the month of June things typically starting to ramp up. So this is the time of year where we start to watch some of the suspect areas maybe closer to home, like off the southeastern coast, Gulf of Mexico, Western Caribbean. There's been a few, and last year in particular, out here far out. And we question, will this be another season where we see this far out development?
The water is plenty warm to do that, especially in the main development region, which typically doesn't get more active until we get closer to the peak of hurricane season. So a lot of interesting elements in play for the season this year.
We have some active areas out there right now just with thunderstorm activity. And there's a broad area that stretches from parts of the northern Caribbean islands, like around the British Virgin Islands, extending back up there, even towards Bermuda, or actually, more towards the Bahamas. But I can tell you that at the moment, nothing is likely to develop here because the upper level winds are too strong. So that's a good short-term news.
That is short-term, though, because we're in a developing La Nina. So we were in El Nino, now we're in neutral. We're slowly transitioning to a La Nina. What La Nina does to this area is it really allows the wind shear to drop dramatically.
So we may not have that wind shear as we get later into the summer. And that's certainly one of the reasons why we have these outlooks for above average activity. The warm water temperatures, another, and throughout even the main development region, we are very warm. We're warm all throughout the Caribbean. We're very warm in the Gulf of Mexico, in those areas that are most likely to develop in the month of June.
We have water temperatures in the Keys that are in the 90s. That's crazy. That's really warm. So you see the closer to land typical development, especially closer to, say, the Big Bend of Florida. That's a hot spot this time of year. And they spin up very quickly close to land. That means less time to prepare. So preparing now before we have any tropical threats save you a lot of stress.
Yeah, there's about 6% of named storms happen in June. And this is on average. July, about 8%. And not to say we get a lot of hurricanes. It's only 4%, and only 1% of Cat 3 to 5 major hurricanes, but it's not zero either. So it can happen in the month of June.
Preparing now, that's going to be really key. So some things to help you prepare: knowing your evacuation zone, having your insurance in order, deciding on a shelter, having those supplies ready to go, and helping your friends and family come up with their plan too. That can always be helpful. Well, coming up, it's the launch that didn't happen.